Can you describe what was it like working at Google Brain?
Yeah, they have a lot of top tier researchers.
And you're one of them.
I always had this imposter syndrome. Should I be there or not? Me and my colleagues, the people who come up with the standard recommendation framework that everyone is using. It's called two-stage recommendation framework.
So you also contributed to the addiction algorithm of YouTube then.
I think every metric has its own purpose until some point.
How do you measure that?
That actually the whole experience leads me to think about what is the right relationship between AI and a human. What is the right reward? Is the amount of time people spend on the app the right reward or not the right reward?
Hey everyone, welcome back to Set AI. I'm super excited about today's conversation with Jing Wang, who's building some fascinating AI products while also running a 100,000 member founder community. So Jing, thanks for joining us today. For those who don't know you yet, could you give us a quick intro about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Angelina, for inviting me to this podcast. Really great to meet all of you. My name is Jing. I'm currently a founder of DeepVista, proactive agents for busy people, especially for founders and business owners. So the problem we're solving is that we all have a lot of messages and communication we need to do every day. In fact, one survey we got is that every founder and business owners will have 127 messages every single day. And that's not just message, that's actually small decision you need to make. Either you commit on a meeting, commit on some resource of a company, that all requires thinking. And there's many of times we wish that there are some assistant or partner helping us to think through that problem. Previously, we have to find either really awesome assistants or co-founders or partners helping us. DeepVista is to make that process easy, that every one of us will have a proactive assistant, which is AI, that is available 24/7 to help you thinking through that, to prepare the message draft for you, and to be your sidekick. So that's what we're doing. And also a little bit more about my background and how my journey leads to what I'm building here. So throughout my career, I've been AI researchers. I actually got a PhD degree of reinforcement learning in 2014. That was very early. And after that, I joined Google to first work on their ads recommendation systems. And also, because I was very passionate about reinforcement learning, and I joined Google around the same time as DeepMind. So I closely follow their AlphaGo work. By the time of 2016, DeepMind had this very great PR event with AlphaGo beating Listedo, which basically changed the whole field. It was not that popular field before, the whole reinforcement learning field. But later, everyone wanted to try reinforcement learning, and Google also wanted to try. So they want to find someone who knows reinforcement learning very well and knows how to do recommendation system and how to make money. So I happen to have all those experiences. Then I moved to Google Brain to lead efforts of applying reinforcement learning into recommendation systems. And that's where actually I started to go deeper really into how to help to build like a system or chatbot, help people. So actually help to improve a lot of the Google product experiences from one round to multiple round. In which that if you think about a Google product is really, you type some query, you get some results. But for many cases, you will not get the results you want, and you will go back to type the query again. That actually will happen multiple rounds and forms a dialogue. And that dialogue has a goal. So I was basically using reinforcement learning to help align the AI and humans in this goal-driven dialogue. And that leads to me a lot of thinking about what is the relationship between AI and human. But actually I started a very long soul searching journey on that. The first thing, because when I was working at Google, I realized a lot of the AI was really grab people's attention. Like YouTube home recommendations, it actually feed you a lot of addictive content, like some content people love to watch. And so I personally felt that I want to make it more useful and people feel more meaningful. And so I later left Google to work on startup on that. And so DeepVista is actually my third startup already. But the whole journey I have been through is that I learned that in order to build a really awesome partner, which is what DeepVista is. This partner needs to know your personal context very well. It knows very well, and it deeply aligns with your interest.
Yeah.
It's for you, it's helping you, and it's very proactive.
Yeah.
And so it's not like waiting for your instructions. And that eventually leads to DeepVista.
I think you pretty much answered all my questions for the podcast today. Yeah, in one shot. Okay, you had amazing experience. You worked at Google, and not just Google, but Google Brain, right? That's like Mount Olympus for AI engineers or engineers at the time. That's the dream job for everybody in tech space. Can you describe what was it like working there at Google Brain?
Yeah, that was actually such a fantastic experiences. I went there end of 2017. That was time there was a lot of interesting thing happening in Google Brain. When I was there, I was thinking, oh, that was the Bell Labs of my time, because Bell Lab was previously a very famous industry research lab. They got 6 Nobel Prize. It was a very interesting experience because back then Google has tons of money. They spend, I think, 4 or 5 billion a year in pouring into the research. That was a lot of research was very fundamental research, not like they're building like application that can make money. And because of that, they have a lot of top tier researchers. So the people who sit not too far away with me, like the father of carers, like the people with more than 20,000 citations, there's like hundreds of them, like in the same floor.
And you're one of them.
I always had this imposter syndrome. Should I be there or not should I be there? Because I feel like they're all like so smart. So first of all, for me, it felt like a university because I had my original like PhD schools when I got my degree of reinforcement learning. And then the first 3 years at Google, I was working very engineering focused organization as organizations, and we moved very fast to build a product. And for that experience, it actually gave me a lot of expertise of building a real engineering system and product, which is a little bit different than the research or build a research system. That research system focus on theoretical innovation, whether that thing is interesting. And then the engineering system is usually focused on whether it has practical value and is scalable. And that has different mindset. And when I went to Google Brain, I look at the people around me, I feel like I couldn't offer more theoretical value than they do. They're just like so smart. But finding my own position in the lab is that I can work with smart people, learn from them. I will meticulously take notes, learning from that. I'll help them to turn that into real world applications, which I absolutely enjoy doing. And I also turns out that a lot of researchers, they also love that. They love to talk with someone who can understand them. Because of my research background, I can understand what they're talking about. And they also wanted to talk with someone who can actually turn their ideas into some practical results. And that's one thing I learned, because a lot of the researchers, they will publish papers, the top tier papers, neuronips on other top conferences. But when you are hitting like Google Brain research level, you will have a lot of such papers anymore. So it's no longer interesting to them. They want to be applied into a real product. And in my cases, I was actually leading the applications on applying the reinforcement learning research into YouTube home recommendations, YouTube search as recommendations. So different applications that we are trying to apply the technology. And so that actually needs a very interesting and very, I would say, beneficial, healthy dynamics of research and development. So usually the researchers will do some fundamental research that is driven by curiosity from them.
Right.
And they will have a very regular conversation with me. And I will also be like talking with them to help them to guide them the research direction to some direction that is useful to the company and to the industry as well. And I will also come up with a lot of the framework that is useful in the real world. For example, if I find some new interesting ways of training model that actually get great results, I will actually meticulously take notes of that. And we'll have a lot of discussion on that. And then we'll write paper together. After that, we'll also go to talk with the product team. which is completely different group of people. There are things like how to drive the business metrics, and I will translate everything I learned from researchers and bridging the gap between these two group of people. And then what thing is practical, what thing is still like, I need to make a judgment call about what thing can be implemented now, what it's like a quarter from now, a year from now, and then creating kind of research roadmap for the product team. And so the product team will look at me as the face of people from Google Brain for that, the product roadmap. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you're the person who they can understand, because you also speak their language as well. You take that sense to the research team, while also take the research and interpret it to the product team.
It's through the whole experience, I realized chat is such an important capability for any jobs, like for researchers, for engineers. Like it's a way for humans to convey their ideas from their mind to another person's mind, like chat or conversation or podcast like we are doing today is the only way. And different people would have different operating systems. Like researchers, they were operating a very long-term driven decades and human civilizations, they were talking that language.
Right.
And then the product team will talk like, what is the OKR this quarter? How do we grow metrics by 10%? How do the performance management? And I have seen many cases in which they are in the same room and they were extremely awkward and basically not in the same spectrum. And gradually I found that my positioning is that everyone loves to talk with me. When researchers talk with me, they feel like I'm one of them. I understand their concepts. And when product team talk with me, they feel that I can give them clarity rather than being a la land of 5 years, 10 years was going on in the industry.
Speaking the different language, yeah.
Yeah, so I essentially was a translator for the whole research and product teams. Yeah.
That sounds like a fascinating experience. I'm sure a lot of our audience would love to do that. So for those who want to work for Google Brain, you know what it takes, at least either research background or you have to be the interpreter. You also contributed to the addiction algorithm of YouTube then, because you said you're working on the reinforcement learning for recommendations.
Yeah, I think every metric has its own purpose until to the point they over-optimize it. And so there's a whole concept of we want to optimize users' engagement. Like this is applicable for all the apps. There was one point that every AI researcher is like, let's build a recommendation system that improves engagement, which is making users use the app more, love us more. So that would be the North Star metrics of every company at some point. And in the beginning, there'll be alignment of interest between users and algorithm, because if you make the app better, then of course users gonna stay longer time. But over time, if you over-optimize on things, the interest might not directly aligned from that. And that will lead unexpected behavior, which is people spend too much time on computers, too much time on this app. So this relates to what I was working on, like one of the projects I was leading to improve the engagement of users, how much time people spend on the YouTube. And we will set an optimization metric, the reward of the reinforcement agents to optimize for. And that is how long people would be engaging with the app. But at one point, I realized that as we optimize it, people's happiness actually go down.
How do you measure that?
Yeah, so we realized that a lot of users who actually will uninstall the app and for a while, and then will reinstall the app. So that's basically mass behaviors. People feel guilty. They spend too much time on this app and they're not happy. And in some furry mode, they'll just uninstall the app. But then after a week or so, I realized I still need this. I couldn't go with it. So we reinstall it. I personally also did it for many times, not for YouTube, but for TikTok, I uninstalled and reinstalled like at least 5 times. So that's like indications of people are not necessarily happy about what they do. But that actually, the whole experience leads to me to think about what is the right relationship between the AI and the human. And basically, what is the right reward? Is the amount of time people spend on the app is the right reward or not the right reward? In fact, there was a triggering event that made me start to think about my next journey. after Google. We were working on this weekly review, and we are looking at the lost star metrics we're optimizing, which is overall time the user spent. And we realized that we have about 10 engineers, researchers in the room that determines the algorithms. A lot of the decision we make, it will change what people will see on the YouTube home. That's like what billions of people will see on the YouTube home. If we push a button to push it, like the billions of people's homepage will change. And that's while they spend like a few hours a day. And I want that experience to be more less data driven, but more relatable to actually every individual human. And I was doing this and I was looking outside the window. I saw daddy was walking together with his daughter on the street. And it was a very lively family thing. And so it's everyone's individual life. It was happening outside. And inside it is like a huge table. Like in Google we review, because it's very complicated, we pull out this dashboard and every algorithms there will be like 300 metrics, and looking at this down, up, down, up. There's such a big contrast between the two. And I was thinking about, I already done a lot of these reviews and numbers and all these things. I'm no longer too interesting for me. But if I look at outside, like this family life, how can I create a product that I will feel very proud at the end of my career, right? And how do I create a product that make everyone enjoying their life and being happier? So that actually needs me whole soul searching process after leaving. There's many reasons I decided to leave Google, but that was one very memorable event for me to think about. And then the first thing I actually do after I left Google, I think maybe it's because of ads. Because I come from Google Ads, and as I actually did a lot of improvement in ad system, over create billions of revenues on that. But then I realized that maybe I want to work on a different business model, because one of the reasons people wanted more engagement is they could have more ads time or for them to show ads. I think that's like industry standard. There's no good or bad of this thing. Everyone's doing that. But the better way is actually a business model that would align people's interests better. In the ads model, the advertiser pays you, give the product for free to your users. In return, they'll get attention. And this way, this created this three-party system that is not fully aligned in terms of interest. So I started to think about, can we do SaaS, which is like subscription-based, which is that I provide you the best services and you give me the money in return. That would be much cleaner business models to do. So actually, after I left Google, I joined a SaaS startup and be their head of AI. So that's my whole journey. And then all the startup I'm doing has been like exploring these models. It's basically the idea is that how to build a useful product so that people are willing to pay directly themselves.
How's that different from the ads model?
In the ads model, that it basically like your users will use your product for free, and they will give you attention, and you will sell this attention to advertisers, which will actually pay for it. And it works very well. And this is what I learned later after I have been doing several startups. It works well for the internet time, because the cost of serving a user is very low. If you have a users coming to like google.com or facebook.com, the cost is almost zero. And because the cost is zero, the best strategy to do is to give the product for free. And then you can maximize your reach, which is get a maximum number of users. And after you get all this attention, then you can resell this to the advertisers from that. And this model doesn't really work in AI applications because the cost of token is very high. It's definitely not free. And so because of that, it's actually not very wise for companies to chase for growth too early on. That's like different people have different opinions on this, but I have one version of my opinion is that the go-to-market and how you grow the company should really depend on the economics dynamics in your systems. The current with the Gen AI, we are in the token dynamics, which all the business strategy of application companies is driven by how expensive the token is. And the token is very expensive. then it's actually very important to have a solid business model. It's actually important to chase high value problems first rather than chasing more people, which means that I actually don't quite agree with a lot of the revenue companies in terms of they are chasing growth in the sense of they're actually selling the goods lower than the cost they're paying for cloud or the
Yeah, it's really hard, right? It's a competitive space, and then people are racing to the bottom in order to chase growth, like in terms of user account, right? DAU, MAU, those kind of things. You're saying that because there is high cost associated with token usage for offering such a product to users, we should be focusing on high value. So we really should add value to the user.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the reason why for DeepVista, we focus on busy people, founders, business owners, and high value use cases. And to your question, I think it is everything, every decision or every framework needs to be considered in the particular context of the technologies, constraints, or the timing. Like what I'm thinking now is like at this moment, it's actually not a good idea to chase it because the token cost is still very high. And I have a one yardstick to check whether token cost is high or not. If you think about the different type of company that we're having, there's like hardware company or cloud company that's providing computing power. There's a middleware company like Longchain providing tools,
Yeah, the tool.
infrastructure tools. And there's an application company which is providing application to end users. DeepVista is the application company. And if you think about this, is like the whole system is a value state. In the long-term steady state, the layer that provides the computing, including NVIDIA or cloud providers, they should have very thin margin. If you want
right?
electricity, like which does PGLE make any money? They're not. They are a public utility company. They provide this electricity to us so that we can use that electricity to do great things. And this is because they're not making money. The whole society are able to create more things. And if you think about currently, NVIDIA get like 75-80% of margin, gross margin. I think we're still too early. It's more like when the electricity was just created in the 19th century, they also have a 70-80% margin. And then the only company that is making money is the company who makes electricity. And in these cases, it's actually very important to chase like high valuable use case. One of the example for this is there is a Filoli garden in San Mateo. I went there once, and they were one of the very first families had the light bulb.
Light bulb.
Yeah, back 100 years ago, that was a luxury. Now everyone has it. The very wealthy people. So that's also the high valuable use cases. But when the margin of the electricity company goes low, and everyone will get a benefit on that. So the yardstick I mentioned earlier was how much gross margin NVIDIA has. I will be ready to change the business strategy whenever I see the earning call, their gross margin is low.
What are you gonna do when it's public announced that margins dropped?
Then I will serve wider audiences because for DeepVista, I mentioned that we're primarily focused on busy people, business owners, founders. We focus on them also because I also run a founder community called Founder Cohort we have 120,000 followers, mostly founders in Bay Area and globe, and they're very high valuable people to serve for. So that's the main strategy. It's like building awesome product for a small group of people. That is based on the situation that the token is very expensive. But whenever that has changed, this DeepVista tool essentially can be your personal assistant for everyone. I think that will also change our business strategy from that.
Is your business strategy today also, looking for growth? Your last startup, Storytel.ai, I remember reading your blog post and saying that you grew to 550K in 1 year users, right? So that sounds to me that's the past. Are you looking for the same for this one?
We have a couple of multi-stage growth plan. The first stage we actually will laser focus on high valuable customers, which is business owners and founders. And the founder cohort essentially already forms a community from them. So in terms of growth, we can just grow within the community. initially, but later we expanded, to other use cases like sales team who need a smart assistant to help them to handle all the communication flow. So there will be, so based on our survey, there was about 500,000 founders across the globe. There's like about 2 million executives in growth companies that can potentially be our users. And there are also 5 million business people in bigger companies can also be benefit from us. So that's different tiers will grow. And eventually we can be an AI system for everyone, but that is like really 10-year vision from us.
How's it different from ChatGPT? If you're saying that's
a very
AI system for everyone, right?
Yeah, that's a very great question. In fact, that when we look at the ChatGPT, a lot of people use that to handle messages, but we find that like through the surveys of the many users we talk to, right now the experience of ChatGPT is problematic for several reasons. The first reason is that it's still very transactional. Although ChatGPT has a global memory, the memory is very simple. It's flattened a couple like list of text. It doesn't really understand you deeply. And so every time you open the ChatGPT, write messages, it asks you like 3 questions before you can even get initial responses. And you answer those questions, and you close it, open new conversation, it will ask you again. So that's one, is transactional. The second thing is that a lot of the ChatGPT responses still not personal yet. It's like you still feel it's AI, it's not you, because it doesn't know a lot of your personal contexts. And the third problem for ChatGPT is because it's a chat app. It's not a task tracking app. And for business people, the reason why they send messages to move forward for the business side, they need someone to follow up on items. So they really need these task tracking capabilities, someone to remind them when they need to do certain things. So ChatGPT doesn't really do that. And so we really differentiate us with ChatGPT. In fact, we actually use a lot of the LLM API from OpenAI, from cloud, where application companies were not building foundation models. But what we do that those big companies wouldn't do is we have built your personalized context model, which doesn't need to be a large model, but is a small model that restores all your contexts and are able to generate the right prompt for large language models to execute. And the framework we are having here is that in order to build a personalized AI system, we actually need to have 2 layers. The bottom layer, which everyone talking about, is execution layer. If you really think about our large language models currently, it works very similar like an interpreter, pricing interpreter. We have this context. Contexts are a sequence of instructions, which is large language. You send that instructions into LLM and you get things done. You get responses, and now you can also get a tool calling and get the things done. And that's work exact same way when we send a Python program into Python interpreter and get it done.
Right, makes sense.
So that's execution layer. And we'll leverage that capability as much as we could. But on top of that, we still need a layer, which is who is writing this Python program. Right now, everyone's saying, oh, they are doing either prompt engineering, which we expect that everyone's just being able to type that program by themselves.
Lousy prompts, yeah.
It's not easy. Yeah. Or another concept people now are very popular right now is called context engineering. It's basically creating a set of rules to create that program. So that program essentially is a couple of rules. What we believe is that prompt engineering, context engineering has its own purposes. But the main problem there is they are not deeply personalized. If it's like you require people to write prompt, most people couldn't. And if you rely on rules to generate context engineering context, it's the same for everyone. So what we are building is this personalized context model that deeply understands the past interaction between the users and agents, just like our recommendation understand your interaction between you and the YouTube. It understands every chat conversation had with this agent, including other data sources, and it translates those contexts based on what you type now into a set of instructions. It's writing this like on-the-fly small program, and that program is essentially the LLM context that will be sent to the LLM to execute it. And it also gives us a very strong positioning is Now, every time OpenAI release new model or Cloud release new model, I'm very happy. I'm like so happy for that because we are working on top of them. We can easily adapt our model to write better instruction and which can be sent in LM. So the analogy will be we will always have this capability of writing a good Python program. And OpenAI and Cloud are building the best Python interpreter. And if they upgrade, like we're absolutely super happy.
So you're saying your personalization is through on-the-fly context engineering for the user based on their past interactions, because you still let the user write whatever prompts they're going to write. You're not using a one-size-fits-all context, engineered context for everybody, but you're building that based on real-time conversations so that I think it's very human as well, because we're friends. The more we talk, the more I know about you, and I always retain that context. I always know I'll learn about how you work and how we can work together. I have that context and I distill that. So basically, it's like a dynamic context engineering based on personal interactions.
Actually, I wrote an article about that. So this new paradigm, I coined a new name for it called context modeling, compared with context engineering. It's really a dynamic context engineering that everyone will have different context engineering tactics based on their own situation. So compared with context engineering is really the engineers who are doing the thing. Yeah, so what is the difference of context modeling compared with context engineering? The main difference here is that instead of have engineers come up with rules to retrieve the relevant context and use a template, putting it together, there will be a model that dynamically retrieves the contexts for the users that is relevant to current conversation, and then not using a template gluing them together. Basically digest it and generate the instruction, the LLM instruction we talked earlier, directly, which will be sent to the front end to be executed. And that model is what we call a personalized context model to do that. One of the main difference that model will do compared with previously is this dynamic retrieval processes or retrieval models. We're talking about building a personalized LM or personalized AI system. And that ties to an interesting historical involvement of AI. Like we used to be able to do personalization very well, and that capability get lost. So before LM, the model was much smaller. And when we have this algorithm in the YouTube or TikTok, it is highly personalized. Everyone's homepage of YouTube is different. Everyone is completely different. And they are trained in the real time. But now, fast forward, when we have LM, every release of the model is 1.5 year or 2 years. Like we got a GPT-4 in April of 2023, and we just got GPT-5 a month back, which is like August of 2025. That's almost 2 years, more than 2 years in terms of the model development. And this whole model is exactly the same for every single person. And why that happens is because the model gets bigger. And so it's getting harder and harder to train. And in fact, there's a note on that is like, when in the GPT-3 world, everyone's talking about we fine-tune the model. Now in the GPT-5, nobody's fine-tuning GPT-5. Yeah. Nobody has the resource to fine-tune GPT-5. And because of this, as we are having scaling the model, we lost personalization.
I want to double click on that.
Yeah, so absolutely. Yeah.
Pre-GPT, we're able to personalize, like let's for YouTube. And is that model a non-LLM, like just a deep learning?
It's non-LLM.
It's machine learning models.
It's machine learning model. And I can go a little deeper into how that model looks like. And in fact, me and my colleagues were the people who come up with the standard recommendation framework that everyone is using. It's called two-stage recommendation framework. It basically has 2 steps. The first step, and let me use a YouTube as an example. The first step is that let's not focus on accuracy. Let's focus on finding any possible thing that you might like. Even if I suggest you something that you might not like, it doesn't hurt. So I will get as many candidates as possible and give it to the next stages. This is called retrieval. And the second stage is called re-ranking. And now the re-ranking need to handle, instead of billions of candidates, they only need to handle the candidate generated by the retrieval model, which usually is hundreds or like 1,000. And they will focus on accuracy. Among these 1,000 candidates, what are the top 5 that will be relevant to you in the current situation? And that recommendation system is using most of this AI company like TikTok, like YouTube. They all use this framework. And why? And the reasons why they use it is because they need to scale the system, maintain the personalizations. And with the model, when you don't have that many users, you don't actually need to two-stage system. But when you have a lot of users, you realize that it's actually very important to have candidate model with retrieval models to be able to handle billions of potential candidates. So you can focus on that, and you can have the re-ranking models to focus on the personalizations, do the most accurate re-ranking. When you separate out this problem, your system can scale. And then that's how we are able to, for example, like in the TikTok or the YouTube, billions of users train continuously, and everyone have their deeply personalized homepage. This is through this architecture.
And you're saying this is no longer true? They're not using this model anymore?
That's a great question. The whole industry is making this true again, but initially it's not true for a reason. So when the large language models comes out, it solves a much generic problem than recommendation system. Like this personalized recommendation system, they can do deep personalization, but they can only do one thing, which is ranking. You have a lot of YouTube video, which 5 relevant to you. They can solve this problem very well. But LM is solving a different problem. It's solving generic Q&A. Is I can type any query and give any responses. And people love that. And when the LM gets created first, and people will directly chat with LLM. And in these cases, nobody need to worry too much about the scaling or other things. So they were directly doing that. And the performance will be best because this is end-to-end solutions for that. And over time, people realize that they need to have some additional capability on top of it to process much more information in real-time fashion. If you are only chatting with LM, if the LM knows it, it's very powerful, great. But if you chat about a topic with LLM, most of the time it will hallucinate.
Right.
It doesn't know this information, but it will pretend it knows this information, and we call it a hallucination from this. So hallucination has been really accurate news for the LLM. It hasn't been solved even now today. Because LLM only know a subset of information, and whenever you go out of the boundary, it will start to rambling. And later, everyone is trying to build this AI guardrail saying, don't say things you don't know, but they will still refuse to answer your questions. And so people are building this additional system on top of it to be able to handle data in real time, which is now RAG, Retrieval Generated Augmented Generation. And if you think about a RAG, it's actually work very similar to the recommendation system we talk about.
It's the retriever.
It's very trivial. They even carry the same name. In fact, they actually use the same technology.
Okay.
Like most of these like Pinecone or these like vector databases for the RAG-based applications. So people started adding this back. But the current situation we are in is that when we talk about, like when we look at this really the RAG or the vanilla retrieval augmented generations, we have this LLM, which is the second stage. Actually, it works similarly like re-ranker. Now it's LLM, but it's GPT-5. Nobody can do anything for it.
Right.
And you have the first part, which most people are doing this cosine similarity based retrieval. And so they will run this like dot product and get a top K and then get a result as the LM. And that rules is the same for everyone. And if you think about these two systems, there's no personalization at all. The first stage is the same for everyone. The second stage is the same for everyone. Then how do you have any personalization? And that also causes another problem, which is like everyone saying application company don't have moat. Of course, you build like a system without any personalization. So like no matter how much data you have, you don't actually improve user experience. There's no data flywheel in this whole current RAG-based applications. So we are in an interesting situation in which that everyone is chasing more data, trying to grab it and hope that they can use it, but no one is actually using it. Yeah.
Very interesting insight. So are the original recommendation engines going back to the earlier algorithms like YouTube?
There is actually, it will never go back to the same algorithm as before, but it will evolve just like in the later, there's a many like species involved with similar forms because the environment needs that type of things. I think it evolves in a similar fashions, which you will have the retrieval system that is focused on being able to handle things in real time, handle a lot of more documents, and you will have LLM, which is very powerful and focused on accuracy. That is still coming, and we're in the process of doing that. And what I think is the next, which is also related to context modeling, is that it used to be when you do build a recommendation system, the retrieval stage in the recommendations is a model. It's actually called retrieval model or deep retrieval. And it's highly personalized model that learns from users' feedback. So give back to the example, when you have this retrieval modeling like YouTube home recommendations or TikTok recommendations, it actually learns from every single interaction you have. Like you like it, how long you watch on this, and based on this feedback, it will give you different candidates, and which will be sent to the re-ranker, which is also personalized or learning on this. So basically, that's a two layer of personalization happening. And then fast forward to our rank-based applications, neither of them have any personalization loop.
So the original version of this is because you're training based on my action, it's already personalized towards my action, right? That will guide the retriever because the retriever is modeling against my action. So the retrieved results will be personalized versus the RAG approach is just cosine similarity. So based on my query, which one is similar to my query, right? So there is no feedback in terms of my action. And the same for the re-ranker as well. If you don't put these parameters in it explicitly, then it's not working.
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks for explaining this. You are having this context modeling for DeepVista. Can you speak about the first use case? Since you are not rolling out to everyone yet, what does that actually look like in practice if I were to sign up today, and what's going to happen?
Great question. It's actually tied back to the conversation we had earlier.
Yeah.
In order to build a great company, you need great research, which we'll talk about. Context modeling, and there's deep research happening in the company for that. But you also need a great product and great engineering, like user experiences. Now let's switch gear to the second part.
Go back to that, yeah.
So the first initial use cases that we're solving is for busy people, especially for founders and
for busy people. You said
for busy people.
Okay.
And we want to help them to reach inbox zero all the time, effortlessly.
How is that possible? Okay.
Exactly. That's a great question. So that you need like AI agent that really first deeply understand you. The second are very proactive. And in fact, that a lot of founders and business owners, they are already doing this. They're doing this by hiring another people doing this, like executive assistant or executive admin. A lot of founders I know, they hire this and they will train their executive assistant to help them to manage their inbox for them. And it's very costly. If you do this in the US, it's easily more than 100,000 a year. And even you do offshore, it's like easily 30,000, 40,000 a year. And so if you use our product, you basically will be replacing this executive assistant. So we also use the AI executive assistant for busy people. And the user experience, when you log in our product, the first thing is that you will, like, after you authorize with your emails, and we'll laser focus on email first, and then we'll start with Slack and Discord. And it will start to proactively processing all the past unread messages for you based on the context you provided, and you can also give guidance, just like how you would train your executive assistant. You got, oh, I like this email. I think this is less important. You can have conversation on that. And then your AI agent will use the instructions you gave to basically classify all the emails, process them for you. Our agent will basically ask a few questions, initially just connect information. Who are the important persons I care about? What topics I care the most? What topics the agents can handle automatically? The DeepVista agents will proactively handle this, and 80% of the messages, they will archive it for me or will do a quick reply automatically. And there might be like 10% or 20% that needs my attention. Even in that case, it will pulling all the contexts and writing a draft for me so that I can just like build on top of it. And as I'm doing more iterations on that, I will send the feedback. And so like in the future for these cases, you should handle like this. And this is how I would write emails for this situation. You can actually give instructions to our DeepVista agents to do that. And it will learn that. And in the future, we'll just pretend they handle the email the way you would handle. And eventually, after you finish whole thing, you will get inbox 0. And then go to the next second stage is when you reach the inbox 0, it actually proactive monitoring for you will keep you in inbox 0 state. So every morning you log in, it will give an executive summary of everything the DeepVista agent has done for you. If you got 100 messages in the evening, the agent will handle 80 of them and give you like a draft for 10 of them for you to process in the morning. And also will give you a proactive suggestion what you should focus for the day.
Is it integrated with like my Gmail so that I can just one click to send the response over?
Yes, will also take action for you. When you do the inbox 0, your AI agent actually go to the Gmail and actually archive the email for you. And also in the future, when you need to send an email, you don't have to go to the email. You just say, please send it.
Okay.
And the agent will send it for you. Yeah.
I can tell you some of my use cases. One is some people want to schedule a meeting with me. Can it actually go to my Google Calendar and actually make it happen for me? Is that action taken as well? Okay, awesome.
Exactly, yeah. And in the future, it's not just in the Google Calendar email. We also have the plan for Slack and like Discord, LinkedIn message. So it will be all in one inbox that you need to handle. So you don't have to log into LinkedIn to reply your messages or Discord or Slack. You just talk to the agent, send this message for me, and it will go and send it for you.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I'm looking for. So I get maybe 50 per day on emails, requests asking for sponsorship. I just want to respond to them. Those agencies like Head or Aha Labs, I don't know if you know about them. This is part of the PLG growth hack, right? They have tens of thousands of different emails from the same company. And I cannot filter the emails. 90% of my inbox is like those kind of spammy emails. It's just a pain. This is why my inbox is not 0, right? What they're optimizing to hit my inbox. And I'm trying to I don't want to see you, but I don't know how to spam you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for great to hear that. You are my perfect ICP, ideal customer.
Are you open for beta testing?
So yeah, we are open for the sign up for the waiting list. The domain is deepvista.ai, and we are rolling out the testing, like the alpha testing, later this month.
Okay, awesome. I feel for the stuff that you wrote before, your blogs and your LinkedIn posts and things like that, you mentioned this term appears multiple times. So signal from noise. A lot of your philosophy is around trying to increase the signal level from a lot of noise. Is that still true?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm really a productivity person. I'm very fascinated about all the tricks and ways to help people to get time back and get more things done, get their dream done. And I think one of the main problems we are facing in the modern world is that there's too many informations for us to processing. And like you mentioned, all the startups are doing is really focused on that, signal from noise. And because this is a problem that we modern people face all the time. And in the ancient time, people don't need to solve this. There's not many communication tools for them to share the information. I really think this signal noise ratio problem is a big problem for us, our generations, because we just finished one revolution, which is internet revolution. We are going to this AI revolution. What I see this is AI revolution is antidote of internet revolution. The reason is that if we think about these tools, the technology we have in the past century as a continuous spectrum, we have first like computing devices, we have computer, now we have personal computer. Now personal computer connected because they want to have more communication with each other. As we're doing this, there's more and more information generated and more information communicated. And we're in a world, everyone knows everything. Like we have the YouTube influencers, like millions of followers or tens of millions of followers, and this trend is still going on. What that means that one person message, there's a million people receive it. And we all subscribe to thousands of influencers, and that's just for this online influence channel. And there's also email channels we talk about. There's every day 1,000 people trying to reach me as well. And then there's DM channels as well. So it's a very common problem because of how convenient it is to communicate with other people. We have this social media, we have these emails, we have IM. It is so convenient to communicate with other people thanks to the internet revolution.
Right.
Now we have a problem of signals to noise ratios to know, which I think the AI revolution is helping to solve that problem. We will have the best AI assistant to really help us to make sense of the world.
You're saying that it can be a filter, like it's a lens we can use to view the world. So we get our sanity back in a sense.
Exactly. So that's what I say is this antidote. And maybe one day we will have such a powerful, I think that the technology involves in the cycle. So because we have so many information, we need a filter or personalized assistant helping with that. But later, we might want to connect more directly with each other, not with our person. Then there may be another like revolution to help people to connect more in the future. So there's like this more signal noise ratio to solve that problem. There's creating another one. It's just like cycles going on.
If it's too much noise, then people want to reduce it, and if it's not enough noise, then people want to hear more noise.
It's like we also do the same, right? Sometimes we have go to too many events, rest for a few days. But when we actually take a rest for a few days, I want to go to more events. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. I love your community events. I go to all of them. So strong support of all your events.
Thanks. Yeah.
But for all my audience, if you're local at Bay Area, I think Founder Coho has really good events. So please join. It's very fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think you hit on a really deep topic today. I think you mentioned about two different mindset about building products. One for optimizing for metrics and for engagement for money, for revenue, right?
Yeah.
We cannot build a company or business without that. So that's still important. And then the second one is adding real value that's good for the human being users. So I feel like you have a very empathetic approach of building product. And when you mentioned about the contrast when seeing a family living their daily life versus tons of metrics on a screen, I feel like I almost want to cry. I can visualize that. I can see that. So do you think this is the reality? Do you think building products are trending towards rethinking to add true value for humans? And we're rethinking this machine-human relationship.
Yeah, thanks for this is such an awesome question, and thanks for asking this. My whole philosophy of building product is evolving as I'm doing this whole journey. And when talk back to the story that like I shared earlier in the YouTube, that was 2018, actually 2019, when I saw that thing. And then I don't know how to make that happen. And so there's a whole soul searching journey for me. How can I build a product people truly love, not just have good metrics? It took me some zigzag journey to do that. But at the end of the day, I realized the only thing that will help you to guide through whether you build a good product or not is actually real world interaction with your users. See them every single day. It's not through any metrics. I have to change my philosophy a little bit because I was like, had my PhD training, I was doing the algorithm. I saw, oh, you can always come up with a set up a dashboard, and I'm sitting here on the dashboard. Okay, this metric is going great, and I will have a great product. And gradually, I dropped that philosophy, and that also leads me to make more friends, to build a community of the founder cohort, because I realized that the purpose of building the product, the true value is building a product that people love. This is fundamentally about people, both for the builders and for the users. And you have to have this like conversation and interactions to them. And there's different processes that guide you through the whole thing. Like the first thing is that you have to talk with enough people, say their facial expression. not just metrics. So tied to back to the story is like it's like on the one side is some numbers, on the other side is people.
Right.
I would rather than I build a product and then talk to 100 people and are smiling, rather than I build a product and metrics are fantastic, but no one's really smiling from that. So the philosophy I build is I find those group of people first, and I will make them smile.
I love it.
And I'll make that happen.
I love it. Thank you, Jing. I really enjoyed the conversation with you today. For anybody who's looking for a product, like an AI assistant who can take actions on your behalf and can be personalized to your needs, I would consider use in the future. I would love it to come from very empathetic founder who cares about deeply if I smile or not. So yeah, really a pleasure to have you here today, Jing.
Thank you, Angelina, for having me, and really great pleasure.
Sounds good.
Cool.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.